This is Barro, Colorado Island, hidden in the very heart of the Panama Canal. It appeared just a little over 100 years ago during the construction of the canal, when the rising water flooded the tropical forests. Since then, Barro, Colorado has been declared a nature reserve. Its ecosystem consists of several primate tribes, spider monkeys, experts in acrobatics and stealth, capuchin monkeys, all-around explorers with a knack for handling objects, marmosets, tiny scouts with low health points, and howler monkeys, the dominant species that controls most of the territory. The average size of each howler monkey group is about 20 individuals, and there are roughly 65 of these groups. The system runs like clockwork. Disease is the only threat. There are no conflicts, no overlapping turfs, and deaths are natural and rare. The local animals have long lost the instinct of fear. In 100 years, their artificial paradise has become a place without hunting and without any idea that death could come by someone's will. And no one knew that one day, two beings would arrive on this island, and in just a few days, they would erase the peace completely. Don't look up! An unobtrusive reminder to do that thing under the video. They didn't come on their own, they were brought here. Only later did the islanders realize that was the moment when everything ended. After almost 100 years of peace, two Harpy eagles found themselves on the Paradise Island. The male arrived in June 1999 and the female in October that same year. Both had radio tags. They were brought to Barro, Colorado by people. Have you ever seen these birds? They look like something out of a fantasy movie. Part hippogriff, part AI-generated creature, or maybe all at once. I'm honestly not surprised that the first European explorers named these giant birds after the Harpies from Greek mythology. In those myths, Harpies were terrifying flying predators with hooked talons. And the real-life Harpy eagle looks just as fearsome. It's huge, too. Females can weigh up to 22 pounds, males around 11. They stand about 31 to 39 inches tall with a wingspan of up to 6 feet. But what's really shocking are the talons. They can grow longer than 5 inches. Yes, talons. To give you an idea, that's longer than a grown man's finger. Harpy eagles are apex predators. Their damage type is pure physical domination. They eat meat and take whatever they can overpower. Sloths, monkeys, porcupines, anteaters, iguanas, opossums, those are the training dummies they use to perfect their reflexes and strike accuracy. But when resources run low, Harpy eagles move on to larger prey. Sometimes other birds, sometimes wolves or young deer. Their strength lets them attack targets their own size without losing speed. The Harpy eagle sits at the very top tier of heavy avian predators. No one really knows exactly how much weight they can lift. In short, they're apex hunters with talons the size of a grizzly bear's claws and feet about as big as a human's. They look like the final boss in a video game. Harpy eagles mate for life, build their nest on the tallest tree in the forest and use it as a watchtower. From there, they keep an eye on everything below, like the Eye of Sauron scanning for hobbits. Or, monkeys. They're one of the few diurnal birds of prey that have a facial disc. It's made of folds of skin and feathers angled just right around the beak to help them navigate through trees and hear their prey. Kind of like a built-in satellite dish, capturing sound waves and directing them into the ears before the bird launches a perfectly aimed strike. You might think hunting in a dense forest is tricky, but Harpy eagles have short wings and long tails that give them, plus 100 to maneuverability. They can dart through tight gaps between trees without losing power or speed, snatching their victims right off the branches. Definitely not the kind of bird you'd want living next door, even if you're not a monkey. For the inhabitants of Barro, Colorado Island, it was hell on earth. The Harpy eagles took a liking to primates, especially capuchin and howler monkeys. Researchers tracking them with radio tags found that the female caught prey every 4.39 days, while the male hunted more often, every 3.71 days. Most of the time, howler monkeys ended up as dinner. Every single troop on the island was under constant attack. In every troop, someone was always being eaten. The sloths didn't get off easy either, both two-toed and three-toed. The male and female hunted them in roughly equal numbers, though I doubt that mattered to the sloths. They were eaten just as often and with great enthusiasm. Harpy eagles hunt with incredible precision. If the prey is perched in a tree, the bird simply grabs it with its talons, then either gently lowers it to the ground or just drops it. Either way, it's the same story. The Harpy eagle pierces the victim's body with its talons and squeezes so hard that it quickly stops moving. With three-toed sloths, it's usually that simple. The Harpy eagle swoops in, grabs, squeezes, Done. Two-toed sloths are trickier. They hang upside down, so the harpy eagle has to get creative. It flies up from below, flips over midair, and rips the sloth right off the branch. If it goes well, it lands with the prey, or just lets it fall. What's it gonna do, run away? Now imagine what the island's primates must have felt, having never seen a predator before. They learned to fear sounds, instantly scanning the forest for any sign of a harpy eagle. Adult females would grab their babies in panic and rush into thicker foliage, where it might be at least theoretically safer. Adult males, on the contrary, spread out, moving away from the group and calling alarms to cover as much ground as possible. Not to scare the harpy eagle, that's impossible, but to spot it early and warn the others, even if it cost them their lives. Harpy eagles attack when monkeys least expect it, during rest, when they're grooming each other or peacefully foraging for food. And the calm scene instantly turns into chaos and wild screams. Males of howler monkeys often rush toward the predator, waving their arms trying to scare it off. Capuchin monkeys have a different strategy. They leap down and dash across the ground. Tamarins also jump down but simply freeze, hoping things will somehow work themselves out. Sloths, surprisingly enough, aren't that defenseless either. They can growl, hiss, and swing their long claws right in front of the harpy eagle's face. Plus, they try to hide in places the bird simply can't reach, in thick canopies, under branches. But truth be told, they still can't really do much harm. At best, they just turn themselves into a slightly spikier snack. And, okay, let's put all the cards on the table. Everything I've been telling you happened on Barrow, Colorado Island between June 1999 and August 2000. It wasn't some long, deliberate genocide of the monkeys. It was a controlled experiment. Scientists wanted to find out how exactly harpy eagles affect primates and whether monkeys can learn to fear them in real time. Every day, the researchers tracked the birds' locations using radio tags, and whenever they managed to pick up a signal, they'd sit somewhere nearby and record everything that happened, very discreetly, trying not to interfere and keeping as much distance as the equipment allowed. Before this study, scientists didn't fully understand how predators hunt primates or how the primates learn to defend themselves. Relationships like that are always an evolutionary arms race where losing means extinction. So they decided to test how a monkey community that had no real enemies would react to a predator. Could the monkeys develop a defensive response? And how fast? They chose Barrow, Colorado Island in Panama because it's one of the most studied places on Earth, monitored by biologists since the island's very formation. It was expected that roughly a year of harpy eagle presence would make the howler monkeys develop a new alarm instinct. But besides that, the scientists also hoped to study the harpy eagles themselves. At the time, the scientific community knew embarrassingly little about these birds. There were only 2 academic papers. How exactly harpy eagles feed, how they live, what habits and preferences they have, all that still needed to be discovered. And Barrow, Colorado turned out to be perfect for it. The results were unexpectedly fascinating. The island's howler monkeys didn't just add harpy eagles to their existing general alarm call like danger, they invented a separate signal. Danger from above. In other words, they came up with a new word to refer to the harpy eagle. And that wasn't a coincidence. Similar studies elsewhere showed similar outcomes. If animals haven't encountered a predator for 50 to 100 years, they simply forget what it looks and sounds like. But once the predator shows up again, its prey quickly relearns how not to end up as an easy catch. Usually it takes less than a year for new reactions, new behavior, and even new survival strategies to form. And all that happens without new generations, purely through quick adaptation. Because you either adapt or you get eaten soon. As for the Barrow, Colorado experiment, it provided us with valuable insights about the harpy eagles. Like I said earlier, people used to know next to nothing about these flying monsters, but the scientists discovered a few interesting things. If the prey reacted in sync, everyone on alert moving by the plan, no chaos, the harpy eagle would delay the attack or switch targets. But when panic started, some darting around, others freezing, that's when the bird struck. Another curious detail, males and females turned out to have different hunting preferences. Males like variety, one creature today, another tomorrow, including young and ground-dwelling animals. Females, on the other hand, went for the same kind of large prey every time. By the way, why harpy eagles of all predators? Aren't there plenty of others you could unleash on poor, unsuspecting primates? But the researchers had their reasons, and I'll explain them to you. Follow the thought. Harpy eagles always make a loud, very distinctive sound before attacking, unlike any other. That cry signals not only their presence, but also a potential threat from predators. It's also known that other primates in different parts of the world recognize predators precisely by the sounds they make. So by playing back recorded harpy eagle calls, scientists could observe and record any alarm cries that the monkeys made. But that's only one reason that, honestly, it looks like a coincidence. The real answer to the question why harpy eagles lies deeper in the second reason. Large predators are disappearing from the planet one after another, and that's hardly a secret anymore. Even at the time of the study, the researchers already knew this. And when such predators vanish, their prey, including monkeys, lose the evolutionary pressure that once kept them alert. The animals simply stop learning to defend themselves because, well, why would they? Nothing threatens them anymore. And of course, they start reproducing like crazy. That's why scientists need to find out whether different species could still remember their defensive instincts. These days, ecologists in many countries are discussing the idea of reintroduction, bringing back extinct predators to places where they once lived. And sound can actually help with that. Recordings of harpy eagle calls, for instance, can be used to test whether animals still have an instinctive fear reaction. Such data later form the basis for wildlife protection programs. Besides, the researchers also checked whether it's actually possible to return harpy eagles to the wild, whether they can be bred in captivity and then released where suitable habitats still exist. Within their historical range, of course, because harpy eagles really need help. They're already listed internationally as near threatened. In some parts of their range, especially in Central America, they're on the verge of extinction or already gone. There's simply no one left to get that help. The reason for their decline is simple. Like many large animals, these birds reproduce very slowly. In the wild, they raise only one chick every 2 or 3 years. The egg has to be incubated for almost 2 months, and then the chick stays in the nest for another 6 months. You get the idea, right? Harpy eagle offspring are worth their weight in gold. For the population to stay stable, an adult harpy eagle has to live for decades and successfully raise at least 2 chicks that also survive to breed. Well, you know how it works. One chick to replace her, another to replace the male. But if adult survival drops even slightly, it immediately affects the whole population. For such slow breeding predators, their numbers can decline even in forests that seem intact. Human interference ruins everything. Hunting, logging, habitat destruction. All this makes the endangered species disappear even faster. And losing large predators like harpy eagles isn't just the loss of one bird. As always, it throws the whole ecosystem off balance. Food chains shift, forest structure changes. Basically, it's a disaster. There aren't many harpy eagles left. Among all tropical raptors, they're the rarest. In Panama, estimates say fewer than 450 birds remain, and that's after all the conservation efforts. Each eagle needs about 38 square miles of forest to hunt and raise young. That's why harpy eagles are seen as a kind of indicator of the health of the entire wilderness. If these birds are disappearing, something's seriously wrong. Less prey, less forest. But more often than not, humans are the main culprit because they shoot harpy eagles, either for meat, out of fear for their livestock, or simply out of curiosity. Seriously, that's a valid reason, just to take a closer look at this huge bird with talons the size of human fingers. So as you've probably figured out, harpy eagles clearly need help, and people are trying to give it. From 1987 to 2006, scientists tried to save harpy eagles through a captive breeding program. The first facility was built in 1987 in Boise, Idaho at the World Center for Birds of Prey. It had 6 special rooms with controlled temperatures to imitate tropical conditions. The problem was that Boise's anything but tropical. It gets only about 12 inches of rain a year, and temperatures swing from minus 0.4 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter to over 104 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. For harpy eagles used to humid jungles, it was way too extreme, so the birds were kept indoors only, and each room had surveillance cameras and one-way glass so biologists could watch the birds without disturbing them. Later, in 2001, a second site was opened, the Neotropical Raptor Center. It was built in Panama, right in the harpy eagle's natural habitat, on a secluded hill in a humid tropical forest near the Panama Canal. There they built 7 open-air breeding chambers and 1 chamber for raising chicks, where the young could see and hear adult birds but not interact directly with them. Around the center lay about 99 acres of tropical forest bordering Camino de Cruces National Park. Future saviors of the species were collected between 1987 and 1998. Harpy eagles were provided by U.S. zoos and the governments of Ecuador, Panama, and Venezuela. Families were matched by age and compatibility. Scientists watched to make sure there was no aggression and that the couples truly bonded. I couldn't help wondering for a second what a bird tender would look like. Swipe right if you also love hunting sloths. The Harpy eagles were spoiled with gourmet meals, freshly killed or thawed rats, rabbits, chickens, guinea pigs, mice, basically food for every taste. All these animals were raised on farms, and their meat was dusted with vitamin mineral powder, so the Harpy eagles got everything they could possibly need for a healthy life. Honestly, none of us probably eats as well or as balanced as those Harpy eagles did. Then breeding season began, and with it, the feeding conveyor. In just 1 year, they'd raise about 6,000 mice and 400 rats to feed the chicks. They also bought 800 live rabbits and 50 stillborn calves, which were frozen for later. And on top of that, they imported 7,000 frozen rats. When the chicks grew older, the next stage began, reintroduction into the wild. Scientists based their method on techniques from falconry, but while falcons are usually released within weeks, Harpy eagles needed much longer, sometimes up to 2 years. First came a so-called soft release. The birds were let out at a site reachable for the staff, yet far enough from people. They were monitored and fed until they started hunting on their own. Once they felt confident, they were captured again and moved to the final site, where they were supposed to live without human help. That was the hard release, and from then on, the birds were on their own. From 1998 to 2008, several such releases were carried out in Panama and Belize. The program began with 5 Harpy eagles and ended with around 50. Considering how slow Harpy eagles are to breed, that was an excellent result. Still, saving Harpy eagles as a species is an extremely challenging mission because nobody really knows how many are left in the wild. It's known that since the 19th century, their range has shrunk by more than 40%, and now Harpy eagles are mostly found in the Amazon basin. Scientists warn that without serious protection, these raptors could soon disappear even from Brazil. But to protect Harpy eagles, you first have to find them. Usually, researchers look for nests. They get a GPS mark of a possible location and hike there through thick vegetation, steep hills, and fast streams. As I mentioned, Harpy eagles prefer the tallest trees around. The Brazil nut tree, for example, is perfect. It can reach 164 feet tall. And there, if you look closely, you might spot a nest among the branches. Here's a young Harpy eagle rescued by a logger after its nest was felled along with the tree. The forest was being cleared for pasture, and it simply had nowhere to live. Luckily, it was taken to a rehab center and gradually returned to the wild. But again, to help a Harpy eagle in trouble, you have to know where to find it first. Sadly, a bird can't call 911 and share its location, so you just have to walk, and walk, and walk some more through the jungle. You might cover 31 miles in a day to find a single nest, and then wander another 248 miles over 3 months and not find a thing. That's why scientists ask for help and even offer $100 per nest. Nut gatherers who roam the forest gathering Brazil nuts are a huge help. Biologists taught them how to record Harpy calls on their phones and spot signs of nests on the forest floor, and now they exchange Harpy info through messengers. It's been working great. By 2020, they'd found 34 nests, and the work continues. But apart from the scientists who are busy saving Harpy eagles, there are also researchers. They, believe it or not, study the bird's behavior. And that's no easy job either. Remember I said Harpy eagles like to build their nests as high up as possible? Well, scientists have to climb up there too after taking a few lessons from professional climbers. Ropes, harness, 98 feet of emptiness below. All that just to watch a Harpy chick and, ideally, not bump into its mother. Oh yes, just imagine what a Harpy eagle mom can do when someone dares to approach its precious baby. A Venezuelan vet named Alexander Blanco doesn't have to imagine. An angry female Harpy eagle slashed him with a 3-inch wound and pierced his chest. And all he was trying to do was tag her chick. Since then, Blanco always wears a protective vest. though maybe he should have thought about a parachute too. Because once he fell from the top of a tree in the Venezuelan rainforest with the chick he was tagging still in his hands. Suddenly, the ropes loosened and the man plunged from 115 feet. Naturally, he ended up in the hospital with a broken leg and wrist, but the chick was unharmed. And Blanco said that's what really matters. Still, no amount of effort to protect harpy eagles will help if local people's attitudes don't change. Folks who don't know these birds well often think they attack children, eat poultry and livestock, and generally cause all sorts of damage, moral and material. That leads to conflicts, and in a conflict with humans, even a creature as mythical as the harpy eagle can't win. Sometimes people are ready to shoot a bird just because it's sitting too close, even though it's not attacking anyone. Usually, if a harpy eagle suddenly appears near humans, that means there's a nest somewhere nearby, and the bird, likely a young one, is just exploring its surroundings. That's why scientists keep saying people need to be educated. When locals see biologists climbing trees and working hard to save harpy eagles, they respect that and want to help too. Many hunters who used to shoot harpy eagles become allies, especially after they get to hold a live bird. Because, let's admit it, despite all their mythical horror, there's still something attractive about harpies. And then, who knows, maybe it really will be a story with a happy ending. But you know what else helps to save harpy eagles? Strangely enough, tourism. Well, ecotourism, of course. Let me explain how it works. Biologists team up with a travel company, and they set up observation towers near the harpy eagles' nests. And that's basically it. That's all it takes. People look at the birds and think, damn, what a magnificent creature. We really should take better care of the forest so they don't disappear. For many bird watchers, seeing a harpy eagle is as rare as spotting a unicorn. So yes, people are willing to travel across the world for it. And at the same time, those tourists bring extra income for locals. Landowners who host the towers get about $20 per visitor with zero expenses. They can also earn by building the towers, maintaining the trails, and providing food for tourists and staff. Plus, let me remind you, in many regions, people get paid for finding nests. Then a tower goes up, then the tourists arrive. It's a full circle. And definitely a good one. You owe me a like. See you later.